For daily Ask Reddit. r/Ask Reddit. What conspiracy theories do you think are too logical to ignore? David Miscavige, the chairman of the Church of Scientology, definitely murdered his wife and is getting off scot-free for it. Him and his wife got into a pretty heated argument in 2007 and she hasn't been seen since. Lawyers hired by David claim she is still alive and devotes 100% of her time to work at the Church of Scientology, which is why she hasn't been seen since August 2007. In 2013, a former member of the church had filed a missing person report that was closed after a few officers had spoken and seen Mrs. Miscavige. Even though there's no evidence whatsoever of this meeting, all missing persons reports now are turned down, since this investigation is forever closed. I quite like the missing cosmonauts theory. It's unlikely but seems very probable. It boils down to the idea that Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man in space. He was just the first man in space to survive the entire process. The fashion industry makes too much money from purses to wanna make pockets for women easily available. Google Maps only asks you for feedback on its navigation when it knows it did a good job. I use navigation all the time, and I find that when it gets me to the destination on time or earlier than predicted, I get a notification asking to rate the trip. But if it gets me there after it originally estimated, I never get that notification. It wouldn't be difficult to program this into the program, so you're likely correct. Google probably figures they don't want to ask you right after they did a bad job. I like that people always are worried that Epstein was murdered instead of suicide. What if this was a ploy to cover up that he just escaped or paid his way out of prison? I believe that the U.S. government has men in black that make people disappear if they know more than what's good for them. Welp, you're screwed now. The theory that Epstein didn't kill himself. Memes aside, he cold probably exposed a lot more rich people for their sex crimes. They just bumped him off before he could do so. I don't consider that a conspiracy. It's just plain fact, honestly. New Coke was a way for Coca-Cola to switch from real sugar to corn syrup without people noticing. Switch to the new formula that everyone hates. Keep it for a while so that people demand the old one back, then switch it back after enough time has passed that people wouldn't notice the relatively subtle change. The change is not subtle at all once you've switched to Mexican Coke for a while, which is still made with cane sugar. Going back to the corn syrup Coke is awful now. It coats your mouth in this weird gross way that is hard to ignore. With the number of millionaires/billionaires that are psychopaths or similar, there must be a few super rich serial killers out there. By extension, there must be people making money supplying victims in the same way Epstein was supplying girls to the wealthy who wanted to scratch an itch. With the money, power, and influence would come governments and intelligence agencies willing to overlook or cover up terrible actions for leverage.